Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo Staten, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. And today we're diving into one of my favorite topics, toxic clutter. This is that stuff that doesn't just take up space in your home, it holds you back mentally, emotionally, and even physically. We'll explore how to identify these items and, more importantly, how to let them go. So if you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like your belongings are weighing you down, this episode is for you. So let's jump right in. Let's start by defining what I mean by toxic clutter. Toxic clutter isn't just junk or the things you no longer use. It's the stuff that comes with emotional baggage or mental weight. It's the dress that no longer fits but reminds you of a time when it did. It's the box of sentimental items from a toxic relationship. It's even the aspirational clutter, things you bought for the life you thought you'd have but don't actually want anymore. Toxic clutter isn't always easy to spot because it hides behind emotions like guilt, fear, and nostalgia. But once you identify it, you'll realize how much it's been holding you back. So how do you know if something is toxic clutter? Here are some questions that you can ask yourself. Does it make me feel bad when I see it? This could be guilt for not using it, shame for how much you've spent on it, or sadness tied to a memory. I always think of the expensive bottle of lotion that I bought on a whim, tried it, and realized it really didn't work for my skin. I had a really hard time letting it go because it was expensive and I spent so much money on it. And every single time I would look at it in my products drawer, I would just feel a pang of pain. Another thing that you can ask yourself is, am I keeping it out of obligation? Maybe it was a gift from someone and you feel guilty letting it go. A mother-in-law that gifted you that ugly plate set or a lamp. Does it represent a past version of myself? Think about the jeans from 10 years ago before 3 kids and 20-pound weight gain. You keep seeing it in your closet, hoping to one day fit back in them. But what is it really costing you to keep seeing it in your dresser? Probably nothing but upset and low self-esteem. Another way to identify toxic clutter is to ask yourself, am I holding on to this thing for just in case? Be honest, how likely is it that you'll actually use it? This is such a huge category of items in our home. And this comes with a ton of fear of letting go, and it weighs you down. Think, what are the chances of that zombie apocalypse happening? What are the chances? Like, what would have to happen in life for me to need these items? Another thing is, does it belong to a life that I no longer want? This could be a career-related item, old decor styles, or anything tied to a version of yourself that's no longer authentic. Maybe you used to be a nurse and gave up on that career to be a stay-at-home mom with no intentions of going back to that career. Why are you holding on to the college textbooks and the scrubs? If you answered yes to any of these, it is probably toxic clutter. Okay, so we've identified the toxic clutter in your life and you're probably feeling a little discouraged right now. I'm sorry. But why is it so hard to let go, right? So we're going to talk about some of the reasons it's hard to part with these items because I want to normalize that it's a normal part of life to hold on to these things. And of course, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how you can finally begin to let go and to break free of the toxic clutter in your life. So the first reason that we hold on to items is because of emotional attachments. Again, I see this again and again and again with a lot of my clients and with a lot of my audience. It is hard to separate the items from the memory or the person associated with it. Another reason we hold on to toxic clutter is fear or regret. You might worry that you'll need it someday or regret getting rid of it. The other thing is the sunk cost fallacy. And this is what I was talking about with that expensive bottle of lotion that I had. This is when you hold on to something because you have spent money on it, even if it no longer serves you. And then another very common reason is guilt. Again, maybe it was a gift and you feel like letting it go means that you're ungrateful. Understanding these barriers is the first step to overcoming them. Now for the good part. Now for the positive vibes, okay? How do you actually let go? So here are some actionable tips. Number 1, Separate the items from the emotion. Remember, the memory isn't in the item, it's in you. If it helps, take a photo of the item before letting it go. I want you to note that these things you're holding on to are inanimate objects. They have no feelings other than those that you assign to them. Is it worth holding on to an item that causes you emotional pain? Who matters more, you or your ex's sweatshirt? My hope is that you're saying you matter, right? You're important, right? The next thing that you can do is reframe your thinking. Instead of focusing on what you're losing, think about what you're gaining. More space, less stress, and freedom from the past. Toxic clutter weighs us down. Why do you wish to be tied down or bound to your past? Think of the present and imagine the brighter future. What also helps is to use the 1-year rule. If you haven't used it in the past year, it's time to let it go. Obviously, exceptions apply for seasonal items, of course. If you haven't used it in a year, or if you're going through a closet or a drawer and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know I had this. Well, if you didn't know you had this, chances are you're not going to miss it, right? So be mindful of that. That can really help in the letting go process. The next thing that really, really works is to donate with intention. Knowing that your item will help someone else can make it easier to part with it. You can also give away to friends or family. If these are items that you're really, really attached to, but you don't use, again, we have a lot of sentimental value attached to it. It's just hard to part with it. A lot of times what's really effective is either giving it away, like donating it, or again, maybe even giving it to a friend, a neighbor, a loved one where you know it's going to be in good hands. The next thing that you can do, and I preach this a lot if you've listened to any of my other podcast episodes or my YouTube videos, is start small. Don't try to tackle all your toxic clutter at once. Start with one item, one drawer, one box, or one category. If you encounter an item that you really are not sure about, keep it and tackle it again at a later time. Don't spend too much time deciding. Decluttering, I promise you, gets easier with time. And finally, get support. This is underrated and super effective. Sometimes having a friend or a professional like me, I'm a decluttering coach, with you can make all the difference. They can provide an objective perspective and, most importantly, motivation, guidance, and encouragement. So invest in an accountability partner, invest in a coach, maybe have your partner body double for you, have a friend come over. Having support when you're decluttering increases your chances of success by 93%. Letting go of toxic clutter isn't just about clearing physical space. It's about creating mental and emotional freedom, which is what I want for you and what you should want for yourself. Here are some benefits that you'll notice. When you declutter, when you get rid of your toxic clutter, you will naturally feel less stressed. A clutter-free space is calming and it's easier to manage. You will also begin to experience increased confidence. You'll feel empowered knowing you've taken control of your space instead of feeling overwhelmed and helpless. You will actually increase your energy levels. Letting go of items tied to negative memories can help you move forward so you're no longer stuck in the past. And of course, you open up and make space for what truly matters. When you clear out the old, you make space for the new, whether that's new opportunities, hobbies, or just breathing better in a space. Remember that every item you let go of is a step closer to the life you want to live, to a more nurturing, a more authentic, and a more positive life. Toxic clutter can weigh you down, but it doesn't have to. By identifying these items and taking intentional steps to let go, you can create a home and life that truly supports you. So why don't you connect with me on Instagram at Be Good to Yourself by Margo and let me know, what is that one toxic item you decided to let go of? I really want to celebrate you. Thank you so much for listening. As always, good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourself.